to shed some light on the gaps of reading instruction. And so today's lesson, I'm going to talk about the 3 things that can take you from teaching your child the alphabet to reading and writing their first lesson. So let's get started. And here we go. I'm so glad to have you with me. My name is Martha Bashir, and I'm a reading specialist. I'm here to solve the literacy crisis one reader at a time. These are the things I've learned in my teaching experience, and I'm going to teach you them today. Now, as I look at my list, I want to make sure I'm following my list so I don't wander. There is a gap between the spoken word and the written word. When children learn to talk, everybody repeats things. They talk, they learn. It seems like it's a natural thing. But when children learn to read, it stops being natural. And people disagree with how to make reading natural. And I want to tell you, the most important thing you need to know is not what most people say. The most important thing you need to know is that you need to link the way the letters sound to the way they are spelled in words. And that's what reading is. When you look at reading, it doesn't look like anything if you can't sound out the word. And so today I want to show you that when you link the spoken word to the written word, it starts at the beginning when you read those bedtime stories. You see, the evening and the morning is a good process. You start with a good evening, you'll have a good morning. But in the evening is dark. You don't have all the knowledge. But that's where the parent reads the stories. You listen to audiobooks, but you look at the words, you look at the pictures, and you stop and talk about the pictures. And the most favorite stories are read 3 or 4 times in a sitting. They're read all through the day. But reading stories is very, very important for a reader. And if you had a mother who read to you, you are blessed. If you are a mother that's working on being a reading mother, start at the beginning, reading the simple books your child will love. And that is a great thing. If you have a book that you love, drop it in the link in the comments below, because I want other mothers and fathers to have resources. Now, as we go further, you link. You've read the books, because so many people are like, they don't understand vocabulary. You do know that vocabulary comes from listening. You have to hear the word. You have to talk to people for a moment. And then once you learn how to read, your reading will give you vocabulary words. So let's stop looking at everything else and start going forward to the next part. Let's start with the letters. Now, in English, there are 2 kinds of letters. That's the missing link. People try to teach the letter sounds, and then there's got to be heart words, because we do not know how to sound out these words, and these words are in every book, so we must learn them by heart. If you continue to work on heart words, that literally does not teach them to sound it out. It teaches them to memorize, and there's a difference between memorizing and sounding it out. It takes more time to teach kids to sound out the words, but it will make a huge difference later. That's the gap. So whether you're a beginner, an intermediate, or even an advanced level of reading, you can learn from this program, because it's filling in the missing pieces that you just didn't know. You're like, that's the way English is. You see, most children with dyslexia and other learning disabilities actually are thinking, this makes no sense. And if it makes no sense, why am I even going to try? I want to help you make sense out of reading so that you can teach your children with dyslexic tendencies. Any level can be taught to read this way. So remember, when we start linking the letters, you have to understand that the alphabet is 26 letters, but it writes all the words in the English language. So how can that be? It's because 26 are single letter phonograms and 66 are multi-letter phonograms. Now, when you start by understanding that, whenever you're reading a beginning book, that you can have them sound it out, and if they can't figure it out by sounding it out, you say that's a multi-letter phonogram. And you teach them the single letter phonograms, and if it's not a single letter phonogram, it's a multi-letter phonogram. And when you start teaching the single letter phonograms, you teach them vowels and consonants. And the vowels you focus on because the vowels have more sounds, and then the consonants you practice because you've got to know the consonants. And the link that I want to add to you is the writing. Now, let me show you one of my favorite things of all time. I love teaching. It's a book. How can you teach reading without reading a book? And I want to encourage you to teach reading this way so that you can go to the library. You can test out any book in the library, and if it doesn't work with your child, get another one. And if you have a favorite book that you've read with your beginning readers, please drop it in the comments below. I want this to be a resource for other parents, just like you, who are teaching your child to read. Now, the book I'm talking about today is called Growing Up. Now, you'll see Growing Up by Lisa Charlesworth. It's a simple reading book. But you know what? Don't despise the day of small things. But also, don't limit your child to reading repeat words. So after the child learns how to read, notice right here, there's an OW. We know that it has two sounds, ow, o, like in brown and yellow. Into, the O says oo, that's the fourth sound. O can say ah and o, like not and go, but it can say ah and oo, like love and to. You teach all the sounds that the vowels can say, and then they will be able to read anything. Now, fast forward to the end of the book, and I want to have you look at this most amazing exercise. If you teach them to read this book, then guess what? You have 6 spelling words right there. And you want to teach the child to read by writing first. And when they read the first line, and all these materials will be linked below, I want you to write kitten. K, it, t, n, kitten. Now, they can trace the sound and make them say the sound as they trace it. Can they figure out what they wrote? And then you want to give them a spelling test. What does a kitten grow up to be? A cat. Now, how do you write cat? K, a, t. That is a very simple word. All the sounds are their first sound. All the letters say their first sound. Now, tadpole, write t and p, o. There's a silent E. You need to teach a few spelling rules so that they can know the O says O because of the silent E. What does a tadpole grow up to be? And then a frog. Let's write frog. F-r-ag. Frog. Now that's a different O. There's 2 sounds. So that's how they are learning the 2 sounds that the letters make. Let's read this one. There's a silent B. Underline the silent B twice because it's not saying a sound. Read the word now. Lamb. What does a lamb grow up to be? A sheep. Now, before teaching these things, you teach the multi-letter phonograms so they learn sh, E-double-E, always says E, except in Ben. Where have you been? Ow, O is brown and yellow. E, a. E, a. E, eat a bread, a steak. E, a. W, w. Two sounds. Now, this is an example of a lesson plan. This is for comprehensive phonics because when you learn to read, you sound it out to read. And when you write, you think to spell. But you sound it out the same way, but you sound it out and then write what you hear. So a big part of learning how to read is learning the phonograms. And when you learn how to do the phonograms and you learn there's a difference between the single letter phonograms, the multi-letter phonograms, you teach them the single letter phonograms, the multi-letter phonograms, your student will be able to read. Now, I taught you these as just reading through, and I do have cards where you can learn these things. This is the back of the card, and there are 40 common multi-letter phonograms, 6 spellings of and 20 advanced multi-letter phonograms. In the next video, I will be reading through all 66 of the advanced multi-letter phonograms. But if you find this helpful, please like and subscribe and share this video with your friends. I'm here to help you teach your child to read. Thank you for joining me today.